everyone, it's MK. Welcome back to MK Quilts and this week's installment of Tip of the Week. Well, here we are again at McForte, and the tip that you're about to see has once again been born out of a quilt that actually Ellen has been working on this afternoon here in the studio. So this week's tip is going to be a little bit of instruction on piano key borders, and sometimes a step that I take with those piano key borders when they're just a little bit too tight for my liking. So this week you're going to get just a little bit of a look into Art and Stitch and how I use the connect object function. So let's look at the quilt and then I'll take you inside a simulation and then I'll meet you right back here. All right, so first thing, take a look at this cute as can be small little wall hanging that we just finished up on McForte. And this type of a stitch out is what I teach in my online class called Layout and Rendering number 1. And basically that means that it's a layout that I did with an inside fit pantograph and a border treatment. Now on this little quilt, we are using a very cute little piano key border from Christy Dillon. I will drop the name of the pattern at the end of the video. But basically, it is a version of a piano key that's got a little bit of something extra added into it. So let's just look at it on the screen here. See how it's got those little plumes or feathers, whatever you want to call them. And if I just take a minute to turn off the bounds box, you're going to see that they're not connected on what you're looking at as the top of the pattern. That would be the part of the pattern that meets the seam line, but they are connected at the bottom of the pattern. That's the part of the pattern that goes out into the batting. Now, I'm going to take you into simulation and show you how this piano key is actually a point-to-point pattern, but I have decided not to use it as a point-to-point pattern. And let me explain that to you in simulation, and then I'll bring you right back over here.
All right, everyone, here we go. What you're looking at on the screen is the layout for the little wall hanging that we were stitching. And the first thing to notice is that we had decided to load it horizontally, and that's the way that we built the layout in simulation as well. This is the border right here that we're going to be focusing on. This border was the top and the bottom border. Now this is the border that I created with a little bit extra spacing in it. And this is the border as it would have looked like at the same width, but connected point to point. And if you look at it, if I drag this down here, I just kind of felt that that amount of piano keys was a little bit tight. It was a little bit dense for what I really wanted. So although I loved the pattern, I wanted it spaced out a little bit. So let's go ahead. I'm going to clear this screen. I'm going to show you how I built this border, how I spaced it out, and how I connected it in Art and Stitch. Alright, so here is the little piano key from Christy Dillon, and you'll notice the name Feather Piano Key 2x6. So if you just search on her website, which is mycreativestitches.com, put in the keyword piano or piano key, and you should find all of her options for piano keys. And really quickly, as long as I'm there, I just want to let you know that this piano key corner is also from Christy, and I use it a lot with just about every piano key that I have in my collection. Okay, so let's go ahead and open this design. And I'm going to go ahead and create a two-corner area that matches the width and the height of what my actual border on the quilt was. Okay, so that was 4 1/4 high by 34 wide. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to resize that piano key design. So I'll just make it 4 1/4. Now, if we do things like we normally would with a point-to-point pattern, we might go immediately to repeat and just let Pro Stitcher fill the space, and then we would make some decisions about how many repeats were in there, if we wanted to add more and whatnot. But what I'm going to do Let's do undo. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually manually fill this space, watching the spacing with my eyes. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to repeat it from 1 to 2, and then I'm going to align it. For those of you who have taken my classes, that should sound a little bit familiar. Okay, I'm going to go back to repeat, and as I start repeating this, I'm watching it, and I'm getting maybe to this point and thinking that's a little bit tight, it's a little bit dense. Okay, well, normally what we do with the gap distance is on pantographs, right, where we close up the vertical gap distance. Well, this time we're going to stay in horizontal, and we're going to go ahead and we're going to space out or increase the horizontal gap distance until it looks good, until we get it to where we want it. Okay, so I'm basically just fine-tuning it and making the spacing decision by just eyeballing the screen. Okay, so I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to go ahead and stretch that out, and then I'm going to go ahead and baseline. Now, if I move my crosshair out of the way, and if I turn off my area box, you're going to see that there's all of these jumps along the top. Now, before I take you into Art and Stitch, I just want to mention for those of you who don't have Art and Stitch or haven't really taken the opportunity to learn a lot about it yet, you actually can just go ahead and stitch this out like this along the top of your quilt. You can either let your machine stop at each one of those stop circles, or you can go ahead and change your auto jump distance. Okay, we'll save that for another day. What I want to do is I want to connect this in Art and Stitch so that when it stitches, all of these start and stop points get connected. They're going to stitch out. They're going to stitch out in the batting, which I don't care about, and my machine is not going to stop. It's just going to stitch this like a regular border. So the first thing we did, we baselined it. We better save it so that we can take it into Art and Stitch. Now, I am doing these steps manually, and I'm going to take this into Art and Stitch on my computer. What I'm just going to stop and mention to you really quickly is that if you want to do this step at your machine, at your tablet, then you will need to make sure that you have Art and Stitch activated at your tablet. And you can push these things back and forth between Art and Stitch and Pro Stitcher. Again, we're not necessarily talking about that today. What I would do is take this over to my laptop, sit down, and be able to work with this with a mouse and a keyboard. All right, so let's go ahead and hop over into Art and Stitch. All right, everyone, here we are inside of Art and Stitch. Now, again, I'm not going to take the time to go through all of the information about the tabs and what you're seeing on the screen. Art and Stitch has very, very good tutorials on their website to get you going with Art and Stitch. All we're going to do is the very, very simple steps of opening up the pattern that we created. Here it is. I called it Outer Top, and it was just my working border. Remember, in Art and Stitch, if you've taken any of my other classes or heard me talk about it at all, you know that you need to convert it to outlines before you can make any modifications to the pattern. So we're going to go ahead and open it. Now here it is on the screen, and these little dashed lines, those are the jump points, right? It was a stop point and then a start point and a stop point and a start point. You guys, we don't even have to do anything other than select this whole grouping of patterns. To do that, you can use Control A on your keyboard, or you can go under Edit and do a Select All. Okay, either one of those works. And then we're going to come over here and we're going to use the Connect Object function. And boom, just like that, it took each one of those individual patterns with all of its individual start and stop points, and it connected them together. If you come down here to the bottom to the Sew Simulator and you click, hold, and drag on this little slide bar, you're going to see exactly how it's going to stitch out. Isn't that a beautiful, easy, super simple thing to do? All right, yes, I would agree. What we need to do is go ahead and resave this to a Pro Stitcher file. So we're going to do File, Save As. I'm going to hit this drop-down box. I'm going to select Pro Stitcher HQF file. I'm going to leave the name in the file name field. Yes, I'm going to go ahead and save over the top of what I previously created, and we're not going to worry about this box at all. We're just going to go ahead and click yes. Okay, that was super simple. Let's go back to ProStitcher. If you left your screen like this before you took it into Art and Stitch, well, clearly we're not going to want this anymore. So let me turn my area back on so that we can see. I'm going to do a File Close. Close that one that had all the start and stop points, and I'm going to immediately open up the one that I connected. Now, most likely, just like you're seeing here on the screen, it's not going to be positioned correctly, so we'll just do a Modify Align, and we can go ahead and center that. Or if you're actually working on your quilt, you can go ahead and do a multi-point mark, marking out your border, taking that border, and doing a skew function to get it to fit perfectly. Once you do that, you're going to want to save it again at your quilt, especially if you've skewed it. Again, if you've taken my classes, you know we talk about that extensively, and then you would be ready to stitch. So you guys, this is one of those steps, taking something from ProStitcher into Art and Stitch, that is the easiest way to ease yourself into learning Art and Stitch. If you have been apprehensive about learning it, or you're just not sure why you would need it, I am telling you that this Connect Object function is worth the price of admission for me with Art and Stitch. I use it a lot. I use it for other types of things other than this piano key application, but it's just a really simple, powerful tool that can help you get some things connected and brought back to ProStitcher to stitch out super, super simply. All right, I'm going to meet you back at the quilt, and we'll just talk about a couple of extra things.
So there you have it, everybody. Pretty simple, isn't it? You know, piano keys are one of my absolute favorite borders to stitch. They skew pretty easily. They are very easy to chunk. That's another video. But they're also very easy to work with as it relates to the density and the height of them. So again, they're one of my very, very favorite borders to work with. I hope that if you have not already broken into your Art and Stitch software, that you'll think about doing that. And if you don't have Art and Stitch with your system, you can obviously reach out to us and we can hook you up with that. You know, you guys, a lot of my online classes have just a little bit of Art and Stitch instruction in them. I am not an expert by any stretch of the imagination, but what I can tell you and what I tell all of my students is that I love Art and Stitch to help me with my ProStitcher functionality. So this is one of the easiest functions within Art and Stitch, the Connect Object, and you can do a lot with that one little tool. Okay, you guys, that's all I got for you this week, and until next time, from my studio to yours, happy quilting. Bye-bye.